Welcome to Hope in the Face of Cancer, where we share real stories of courageous people and their cancer journey. Today, we're joined by a remarkable couple, Jennifer and Lloyd, whose love and deep commitment to each other helped them overcome the trials of Jennifer's cancer journey. Jennifer is a breast cancer survivor, mother of two who faced her diagnosis while having young children, a former CanCare client, and now a volunteer. Jennifer's husband, Lloyd, balanced his role as a loving father to their children while navigating the challenges of his wife's cancer journey. Together, Lloyd and Jennifer's touching story is a testament to the power of positivity, hope, and the profound impact of having a supportive community. We're thrilled to speak with this inspirational couple. Welcome to the show, Jennifer and Lloyd. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thank you for having us. We're very
Thanks for
grateful to share this story.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you as well before we get started today for both of you really dedicating yourselves to CanCare's mission by becoming volunteers and serving in different ways. And we'll get into that as we talk today, but thank you. We're so grateful for you.
Well,
So,
I, for one, am
yeah,
very
go ahead.
grateful of what CanCare gave us, and
Yeah,
therefore we're very, very happy to give back.
absolutely. Absolutely. So let's start setting the stage for our audience with it's really just been over 8 years. I mean, 8 years ago in August, Jennifer, that you first heard those words, you have cancer. So let's go back there. Tell us a little bit about how you learned, what that was like, and just walk us through that time in your life.
Thanks. And thanks for having us because this means
Absolutely.
a lot and nice to give back. So it was August 2016. And I was just going through the motions of life. Like you said, had two young kids and just doing what I was supposed to be doing and had a mammogram at 40. I was almost 41 at the time. And surprisingly, get a call back that there's something suspicious and freaked out, called back, got in right away, and they immediately did another mammogram and ultrasound, and they said, yeah, this is not looking good. So from that point on, I pretty much knew, even though it wasn't confirmed, that it was cancer. And fast forward a little bit to when the biopsy came back and confirmed it, I was actually stunned. Just
Yeah.
even though I knew I probably had
Yeah.
cancer, just hearing those words, it's cancer and it's actually a spread to your lymph node on the right side. You need to go see an oncologist and a breast surgeon. And when I heard those words, Lloyd was with me and it stopped. My world just stopped. I didn't want to go home to see my kids. I didn't want to see my mother. I didn't know what I was going to do financially with my career, being a mom. I just didn't know. So it almost was debilitating. And I wasn't sure quite where to go because I didn't know anyone
Yeah.
that had been through this.
Sure. What was that experience like for you, Lloyd, walking by her side through this and watching her struggle with this news?
Oh, it was very difficult because prior to her diagnosis, she was an anxious person anyway, and this just added to the anxiety that she had, and man, I had no idea how to handle it or what to
Yeah.
say, because whenever you're diagnosed, there's nothing you can say to make it better. So I like being a fixer, and I couldn't fix this one.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a very difficult day.
Yeah.
And if you'd
Sense
like,
of powerlessness, there.
yeah, and if you'd like, I'll kind of at least tee up the story to
Yeah.
how we were told.
I'd love to hear that.
And so, Jennifer had mentioned all of uh, the mammogram and the biopsies and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she had an appointment with her OBGYN. The OBGYN came in and said, "Oh, you have cancer. Here is a card of somebody that you need to go see. And I made an appointment for you, but it's in 2 days." And we're like, okay, now what do we do? And so
Yeah. A little lack of
very,
empathy in that moment,
oh,
right?
so cold. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. So that was the mindset of where we were at that particular time of day.
Yeah. And you didn't have that empathy that you probably needed in that moment and hearing that news for sure. So you guys ended up at Houston Methodist, and tell us a little bit about that experience. I mean, you're going to see the oncologist, and before you even get there, something else momentous really happened in this moment to change that story, from being one of fear to hope. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we had a close group that was kind of keeping tabs on us as I was getting the news. And we had reached out, or Lloyd did, and told them, it's cancer. And a couple of them knew someone that was a CanCare volunteer and reached out and asked if we could try to get their help. They were a hospital volunteer with CanCare at Houston Methodist and try to get some help getting us in to see somebody fast. And we did. We actually got an appointment that same day at 4:30. Wow. It was her last appointment. And I'm still walking through the halls, just in a cloud. Lloyd was just stringing me along, doing my paperwork, doing everything. And it was just a dark, dark time. And everything was quiet. There was nobody on that floor. It was the end of the day. And we got called in and we're waiting for the oncologist. And here comes this nice lady just introducing herself. And she says, I'm Ruth Davies. I'm with CanCare and I volunteer. And someone told me that you would be here today. And I was like, okay, what is she, what is this?
Who are you?
Very
what do you
skeptical.
want?
Yeah, very skeptical. And she says, I've been through this. I've done this. I've been through it twice, actually. I'm a 2-time breast cancer survivor. And at that moment, it's just like a huge weight lifted because finally I could connect with someone who had been through cancer and someone that had went through it in her 40s as well. So she knew what it was like, and she just held my hand and rubbed on my, my arm. And she says, we're going to get through this. You're going to be fine. And I'm just crying and crying. She even teared up a little bit and she just let me cry and talk and kind of just left the room. She was like this little angel that came in and then just left when the doctor came in. And I was like already at peace, knowing there's someone there for me that I can actually talk to.
So what was that like for you, Lloyd?
Oh man, it was absolutely amazing. So, like Jennifer, here's this nice old lady that didn't know who she was or what, and hugging all over Jennifer and giving her the kind words and just listening to her sob as I had been doing the entire day. But whatever the connection that she had at that particular moment was literally like a light bulb going off or a light switch going on that really turned the tide of the day of the journey. And this is the very beginning of the journey where she had just been told earlier in the morning that she had cancer. And that moment in time with that CanCare volunteer, I'll be forever grateful for because of the impact and it's the moment in time where that CanCare volunteer was there when we needed her, and it helped me more than she would ever know that she was able to help Jennifer. So it was an awesome feeling for me too. So
that's wonderful. So at this point, you are probably getting some more details about a treatment plan. And I understand your treatment journey was pretty extensive, multiple surgeries. Take us through that.
Yeah, I really didn't know what I was in for. I mean, nobody does when they get that news. So I kind of followed the lead of my oncologist, and first had to do a lot of testing just to make sure, because it had already spread to my lymph node, just to make sure it hadn't spread through the body to other organs and wasn't a later stage than we already knew we were. So all of those tests came back and it was still just isolated to the lymph node. So their plan was to do surgery first and then decide if I needed chemo and radiation. I was like, okay, I'll do that. So go to visit the breast surgeon, the plastic surgeon, and I actually had decided on a surgery called deep flap, which they took, skin from my belly, put it up into the reconstructed breast. So pretty much cut me hip to hip. And I wasn't quite ready for that, like, meaning I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Sure.
It was about a 13-hour surgery, which they did the deep flap, full double mastectomy, lymph dissection, took out 25 lymph nodes on the right side, one on the left. So it was very intensive. 4 weeks after that was, first they told me no chemo. Then it got overruled by the tumor board and they decided, yes, I need at least 4 rounds of chemo and 6 weeks of radiation. So I went through all of that, pretty much back to back. I didn't waste any time. However, I had a couple complications. In the hospital, I had a hematoma on the right side of the reconstructed breast, very scary. I had to do middle of the night emergency surgery to clear it out. Then I didn't heal properly my stomach, so they had to go in and put a plastic mesh twice to hold down my stomach. It looked like I was 6 months pregnant. Just a very weird complication, had nothing to do with the surgeon. So I did go through a lot. But in the middle of chemo, after I'd done the surgery, I reached back out to CanCare and just asked, is there anyone that has been through this stage of cancer, the type of cancer, the same, basically the deep flap type surgery that had also did it in, and they came back and matched me up with someone who actually lived in my area of town in Cyprus, and her name was Teresa. And we met, and yes, she went through all the same things, very similar journey, similar but different. But the thing that stood out to me with meeting her was there was hope for me, because I could see her 10 years, like 10 or 12 years out of her journey. And she looked amazing. And she was successful and she finished raising her kids. Her kids were in college. And I was like, oh, maybe I can do that too. So seeing and talking to her was huge because it gave me something to look forward to. And she was very positive. But she let me talk a lot. She always checked in with me. So that was nice to have that as well.
And someone that you can truly relate to who has walked in your shoes. Because I would imagine going through this experience, you can be surrounded by friends and family and they can give you love, but they can't truly understand what it is you're going through.
That's a very important thing because, like Lloyd said, he is 100% supportive and loving and caring. But no one understands what it's like to be told you have cancer. And no one understands going through all of that, treatments and surgeries and all the emotions, and in my case, hormones issues and stuff like that. No one understands that until they've been through it.
Right.
And so it's almost like you don't connect and you don't understand until someone has walked a similar road of cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. I can only imagine, Lloyd, that having that resource for Jennifer was a relief to you as well. I mean, having been a caregiver myself, sometimes you just don't know how to be the best support. What was that time while she was going through all this treatment like for you, and how did you care for you in that process as well?
So, like we said earlier, we had two young kids, and
Yeah.
they kept us busy. Full-time job that keeps me busy. Just trying to juggle all of that as well as being a caregiver. It just added one more thing to the plate, right? But like Jennifer said, I could be there, I could be loving, I could be as supportive as possible. I could listen, but without truly going through it or knowing what it's like, I couldn't offer the words and wisdom or guidance that somebody else that has gone through it could give. And having that CanCare volunteer be that person for Jennifer was a huge deal. And she would come home. They went to dinner before, and she'd come home from dinner, and it was like a different person too.
Different
So
person. Yeah.
yeah, and I could take her to dinner, but it wouldn't be the same, you know. And so
But I know you would make her laugh if you took her to
no,
dinner. You do that
absolutely.
well.
I would try to flex my muscles and do all the stuff that makes her laugh, but yeah, doing those sort of things and being there and hugging and doing all this stuff just doesn't connect the same way as that somebody that says, "Hey, I've had cancer as well. This is my story. Yours is going to be different but similar," and that just that goes beyond what you can really say in words and what you can really comprehend as a caregiver. That it really truly does make a difference, and for that I'm
Absolutely.
forever grateful.
Yeah, one
I would,
thing I want to mention, if
yeah.
I could, is that both Teresa and Ruth actually they would just show up or call or, you know, be there when I didn't expect it. So if they knew I was having a surgery, Ruth would just kind of show up because she was a hospital volunteer, she would show up in the waiting room, or she'd try to come see me before I went back for pre-op. And it was just such a sense of peace to know she was around. And my parents would tell you the same thing. Like, she provided so much support to them because they were so scared. You know, as an only child, and they had never been through anything like this before, and very nervous and anxious. But she just showed up, and she has showed up continuously through the 8 years. Ruth has, for sure. Even showed up at my father's funeral. So she's just an incredible person. But you develop these relationships and you care so much for, your client, that you want to do stuff like that. And it means so much. Can't emphasize that enough.
No,
And
that's beautiful.
Ruth has said that she gets as much out of it as what Jennifer does. And so that's very hard to comprehend because of what I see that Jennifer gets out of it. So.
Oh, absolutely. We hear that a lot from our volunteers, that they get as much from the experience as the clients they serve, for sure. It's part of the ongoing healing process, and just being able to give something that is truly unique, that other people don't have the capacity to give. Obviously, with the journey that you had and so many treatments and the complications you had, there were many challenges. Was there a particular challenge that really stands out to you about your journey?
Several. I think the last big one, or the one that stands out for me, was when I was doing one of my revision surgeries, and that didn't work. It held my stomach down about 70%. So the plastic surgeon says, I need to go back in and take that out, like get it out of the tissue and put something larger in. And I was like, what? This is the fourth time or whatever that we're going in that same incision. And at the same time, he was going to do some revision up top after radiation and do it at the same time. And I told Lloyd, I remember being at the hospital, we had a visit, and I said, I just don't want to do this anymore. Like I'm tired of doing surgeries. Who knows if this is going to work? And I was kind of short with the surgeon. I was just frustrated because I kind of blamed him. And anyway, um, so I asked him to call me, like I wanted to talk to him again after
Yeah.
the appointment. And I was crying. He actually called me from the operating room, which was amazing. I can't say enough about Methodist, but he called me and he said, look, if you were my wife, I would do this again. And I would say 99% it would work.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, it was just, that's another thing. It's like, you got to trust your doctors, you got to lean on them and trust them. If you don't have that connection, find another doctor.
Yeah.
So it was just, I was so tired of everything and all that I had been through. But that was the last really hard time, I guess, that I had. I think Lloyd would say that the hardest time for him was the emergency surgery for the hematoma in the middle of the night.
That's
But
for sure.
Yeah.
yeah,
Expect the unexpected, right?
Well, yeah, because it was in the middle of the night, and like the hospital was completely dead. There was nobody there, and all of a sudden, uh, one of her breasts went from normal size to gigantically huge, and it was like, wait, that's not right. And so,
Something's not right here.
yeah, so being by myself in a surgery waiting room, with all these things going through my mind, that was by far the worst for me, for sure.
Understandably. So obviously it was a challenging experience through the treatment journey and the revisions and having to kind of go back. To our listeners who may be facing a cancer diagnosis today, or maybe they're starting their treatment journey or in the middle of their treatment journey, what advice would you give them, Jennifer, to how you stayed strong, through that process? What can you look back on and reflect back on that was part of the key for you getting through that?
yeah, it's just exactly what you said a minute ago. It's expect the unexpected. I was such a control freak, and I thought I wanted everything planned out. I wanted to know every detail. And soon, within all the revisions and things that had gone wrong, I was like, okay, this is not up to me. Like, I have to just go with the flow. And a part of that was therapy when I went to my therapist. But that's what I tell every client, CanCare client, is please don't try to plan everything out. Take it one step at a time, and definitely be ready for something challenging to happen,
Right.
whether it's, financially with your insurance, whether it's the doctor telling you something that's not right, or, seeing a second opinion, whatever it is. Just expect that and don't get mad about it, because you're just going to drive yourself crazy. And they will tell, a lot of clients will say, you were so right. You were so right. Because if you try to navigate the ship yourself, you're going to have a lot of challenges.
No, that makes a whole lot of sense. Just being ready for the unexpected, and in some way, I think it sounds like just trusting. You have to really trust those around you who are guiding you through this process, and that can be challenging for a Type A personality. To let go of a little bit of control and say, I'm in great hands, and it makes a lot of sense. Great advice. So, go ahead.
There's just been times where I've asked my oncologist, are you sure we've done everything? Are you sure?
Yeah.
She says, what did I tell you 6 months ago? Like, I said, I just want to know. I just want to make sure. And so, yeah,
but I think it's great that you're advocating for yourself too. And by even just asking that question, you're advocating for yourself. And I think that's another thing we hear a lot, maybe is some fear and reticence to ask the question. And, don't be afraid to, get what you need from that journey.
Absolutely.
So soon after your recovery, you became a CanCare volunteer. Tell us about what motivated you. Because your experience was so hard, I could imagine if I were in your shoes, I may feel like, man, I really want to put this behind me. But instead, you turned your energy toward helping others in a similar situation. What brought you to that?
I mean, I think a lot of my faith because I finally realized that that's my gift, probably.
Mm.
That's my gift that I should be giving to someone else because it meant so much to me. And I'm the type of person where I like to talk. So, and I like to talk, Lloyd will tell you, I like to talk to people and form relationships. So I was like, what better thing could I do than give back to someone who is facing something very similar and give them some hope, and calm their worries a little bit, even just a little bit, if I could
Yeah.
do that after the first phone call or the first text or whatever. Um, and when a client tells me, oh, just talking to you has helped so much, I take that back as job well done. That's what I'm
Hmm.
supposed to be doing. And it just confirms that's what
Yeah.
I need to do. So
Yeah. Is there a particular client that you served that really stands out in your mind as, knowing that you both helped them, but also it filled you up?
yeah, it's actually one of my more recent clients that actually, she's from California, and she came to me similar age as when I was
Hmm.
diagnosed. And she didn't have kids, but she was just about as a mess as I was.
Yeah.
And hearing her and hearing those fears and hearing the tears and, all of that, I could relate to that. And again, after the first call, it helped so much. She was just really seeking out through support groups and things like that. Nothing was working for her.
Yeah.
And she says, this, what you're doing and what you have told me has given me so much hope for my future. I just thought everything was going down the drain pretty much. I didn't think I'd be able to work again or anything. And she didn't get better right away. It took some time. It took several months, but she'll text me and she's like, I'm almost done with radiation and I'm feeling great. And I'm like, wow, if you could have heard yourself
Right.
2 months ago, you were a mess. So just to have that impact on somebody that has been where I was, which was thinking I was dying, literally, um, it means a lot to me
Yeah.
and it makes me feel good. So,
Well, Lloyd, I'm sure you're super proud of how
Yeah.
she's turned this journey into a calling.
No, absolutely. We were a year or so out of her last radiation treatment and going through to Methodist to one of her oncology checkups, and she was like, "Yeah, I really want to start looking to give back and to get involved with CanCare, and so that's how that ended up getting started, was feeling good enough to be able to offer that support
Yeah.
that she gives, for sure.
Well, and you made a decision to serve too, just in a different way. Tell us a little bit about that journey for you.
So Jennifer and I decided to do to be a volunteer together, and to be able to, so that I can. She offers the support to newly diagnosed cancer patients. I went through the class to offer support to the caregivers of those,
Yeah.
and going through the training was really eye opening and a great experience for me personally, and Jennifer probably can attest to the same thing. And to be able to provide that support, the one-on-one matching of me with a caregiver, I didn't feel like I was doing the greatest job of it, to be brutally honest, and so I kind of took a step back from that. But before I did that, a board position, to be a part of the board of directors to make decisions toward the future of CanCare, was offered, and I accepted, and I'm very grateful to be on the board to provide that kind of direction to the future and the vision of what CanCare is currently and what CanCare can be in the future. So,
Yeah. Well, we're
super.
so grateful for your service.
Well, thank you for that.
From that board perspective, I'm curious, you've been on the board for a little over 4 years now.
Mhm.
What's been most significant to you and just watching the journey of the organization, and the impact, that you've been able to have, but just kind of what stands out to you as being the most meaningful or powerful part of your experience as a board member?
Well, we've talked about the one-on-one patient to client relationships, right? Which to me are invaluable. And as a board member, increasing that reach as to where we can have many, many, many more people that can utilize the services that we provide. That to me is in the scale that we're trying to bring the organization to become is probably the biggest impact that I think that we're having as a board currently. Getting better at matching customer or clients with the volunteers that have been through similar journeys. Being able to scale nationwide instead of just in a localish environment. Being more productive as far as fundraising and that way we can provide more one-on-one interactions with those newly diagnosed. To me, that's the biggest impact is to where we are going to go into the very near future as far as scaling up and utilizing other resources other than say the manpower that it takes to do it, and utilizing more technology and that sort of thing to get that done. So that's the thing that I'm most excited about.
Yeah, our board members have such a heart to serve and such a heart for wanting everyone experiencing the cancer journey to have that survivor by your side experience that you had, Jennifer. I mean, there's such passion there for that. And so they're really working hard to ensure that we can serve more and more people, that anyone facing cancer can have a survivor by their side. And for that, I'm so grateful to each and every one of you. So, you mentioned the training, the CanCare training, and I know we ask a question in the CanCare training that I'm going to ask you again now, because I think perspective over years and reflection changes. So, Jennifer, what has been the gift of cancer for you?
The gift of cancer has really made me a different person in a positive way. So when I say that, I'm a better wife, I'm a better mother, I'm a better employee. Like, I'm a better person in general because I've faced what could have killed me and just did it head on. And now I look at life totally different. So my perspective on life has changed, and I'm not so nervous anymore. I just kind of take things as they come. I know Lloyd is very thankful about that because complete worrywart, but I'm not that way anymore. And I think it's helped everyone around me in every part of my life. My kids and my husband for sure have benefited from that. And I kind of look at it, because I got diagnosed close to 40, that it really was a calling that changed my life in a good way. In a good way. Now I deal with all the bad things still, but it's just made me a better person.
So let me put a caveat in there. She does still worry, especially when I'm driving and she's in the car and a car puts on its brakes 400 yards in front of me, and she thinks I'm going to hit it from behind and get in a wreck. And so she's still doing that. So she still definitely worries about that.
Oh, there's some things like Lloyd that you can't control.
That's right. That's right. And he's not always the best driver.
So, Lloyd, I'll ask you the same question. I mean, and again, maybe your answer in 2018 is different than it is today, but what's the gift of cancer to you?
Well, for me, I've got a better wife,
Mm.
and a better mother of my children. And much like what Jennifer was saying, is that the perspective of going through that battle and beating it. I mean, you'll never beat it because it's part of the journey, right? There's always going to be something. But she's a much better, a much stronger person. The way that she handles adversity or things that you and I can not necessarily, or she can't necessarily change. She handles that so much better. The anxiety levels are so much better than what they were before. For me, it was all about she would always sweat the small stuff. Well, the small stuff is not small, is small stuff now,
Yeah.
and because she's beat the big stuff.
Yeah.
And so that to me is the greatest gift that cancer could have ever given.
Mm.
And it showed just how strong we both were, and how good our relationship actually is. So
Yeah. I think many people don't realize their own strength until they, face cancer, whether on the survivor or the caregiver side.
mm-hmm.
So, Jennifer, as we wrap up here today, what message would you like for those listening who maybe they've been newly diagnosed, maybe they're in treatment, maybe they're on the other side of treatment, maybe they're a caregiver? What message would you like to leave them with today?
Just don't lose hope.
Mm.
There's always something to be thankful for. I tell my clients that a lot. Just try to focus on things that are good still, because there's a lot of good in your life. And know that this is temporary. The bad things are temporary, and there is something beautiful on the other side. And I tell them, how I've changed, and that gives a lot of people a lot of hope. They're like, thank you for telling me that, because I could never see myself getting there.
Yeah.
But I couldn't either. So being here, I can tell them that.
Thank you. Thank you for being vulnerable today and sharing your story. And thank you for pouring into our cancer community and just really sharing hope with so many people.
Happy to do it.
Well, Darcy, thank you for being such a great inspiration and a great leader into this organization. Where you're taking this organization is beyond anything that could be comprehended, and I'm truly grateful that you're the leader that you are. So thank you for that.
It is an honor and a privilege. So thank you so much for that. And we hope you will all come back and join us on our next episode of Hope in the Face of Cancer. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Hope in the Face of Cancer, a survivor by your side. If you or someone you know is facing cancer or is supporting a loved one through their journey, we invite you to share this podcast. Thank you for your support in our efforts in the cancer community. No one should face cancer alone.